Says to the guy that whoa. All right. Well, the show started. I'm Arthur Spooner.
I'm Judah Buddha.
And that's Judah Buddha. So, and this is the Chicken Foot Podcast. So, if you're watching, please think about following, subscribing, and just kind of trail us or stalk us, you know.
Quick, follow us.
And if you happen to be a chicken in sneakers, this is the place for you.
We welcome all chickens in sneakers. And I have to say, it's good to be back, not on the road, have a clear signal, be back with my microphone.
Yeah. Hey, I got an email with some suggestions from one of our fans. So one of the suggestions is, have you thought about Muppets, using Muppets? And have you thought about using more attractive people? So, all right, Mom, thanks for the suggestions, and we'll take it under advisement. So, my mom's she's always trying to support me, you know, and you know, that's the great thing. So thanks, Mom. Well, you know, she has high standards for me. I mean, when I was a kid, she wanted me to be a tour guide. So I mean, that's tough to live up to when you're a kid, you know.
That's a true story. Oh, we already got one like by Maxwell Rhodes.
Yeah. So hey, thanks, Maxwell Rhodes. You are our number one fan. So maybe one day we can have that guy on, and
I don't know. I don't think he's attractive enough.
He's definitely not going to cut it on the attractive level.
According to your mom. Oh man. So hey, what have you been up to, man? How you doing?
I'm doing all right, you know, just doing a pandemic. I don't know. That was the only thing that I knew that rhymes with pandemic. Making plans.
All right, but so we've been talking a little bit about what we kind of want to change things up, do a little bit in depth on comedy and stuff like that. But do you have any good stories to start us off?
Stories to start us out? No, I'm not going to start us out on any stories right now. Although I'm sure there'll be a couple stories that'll pop up into my head as we're going. But I thought we'd just jump right into the topic.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah,
and save story time for the last 10 minutes, like typical.
Okay. Yeah.
So I been doing a little research today, and I know you've been doing a little research on, you know, what does it take to be a stand-up comedian? What does it take to get into comedy? You know?
Yeah.
So I did a little research, and I think you've done some research as well. What kind of you've been focusing on?
So the thing that I've been looking at particularly is what does a comedian look forward to as far as making money?
Like what is the sustainability of it?
Yeah. Is it even worth being a comedian? Because you hear about all these comedians. Of course, the draw is that you don't have to wake up early. Like every comedian has that in their bit. I feel like I sleep in, you know, whatever, because they don't have to go until the evening. But I wanted to know, how much do comedians make per year?
Yeah.
And so do you want me to just jump right into it?
Yeah, just jump right into it.
Well, the interesting thing is that there's levels, right? Of course, if you are a super awesome, you know, Hollywood level comedian, you're making really good money. But the thing that really struck me is that most comedians that are just getting into it and opening for like mid-level comedians can make up to $50 a night. And so a lot of comedy stores are open mic, bars and stuff open up
Mhm.
from Thursday, they open up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, sometimes Sunday. And so, that might not seem like a lot, $50 a show, anywhere from $25 to $50 a show, but a lot of them pay $50 a show if you're good. And that could, I don't know, to me, that was pretty interesting for only a half an hour, because they don't let the newbies do more than a half an hour.
Mhm.
So for half an hour of work, you can get $50. I thought that's pretty nice for somebody that's, starting off, if you have any kind of talent. But
Mhm.
it gets better from there. So for 15 to 30 minute show, if you have a decent set, you can make anywhere from $25 to $50. But then if you become somewhat of a regular, you can make up to $100 a show.
Mm.
So Thursday night, you make $100. Friday night, Saturday night, you make $100. That's just opening for the big dogs.
Mhm.
And then if you can make your set a little bit more elaborate and get invited as just a regular that they can depend on, that's when, and if you can become a headliner, so you're not opening up for other people,
Mhm.
you're a headliner, $200 a night.
Mm.
If
Wow.
comedians, so
Now, do they get? I don't mean to interrupt you, but do they get, like, when you go to a stand-up show, and they do like the door, you $10 to get in, or tickets, and like, do they get a percentage of ticket sales, or how's that work?
sometimes some places do that, but mostly they just give you a flat fee.
Mm.
So headliner comedians who work in the comedy club market, and like comedy one nighters, or they just come in and they sort of headline, $100 to $200 for a 45-minute stand-up. So when you headline, you have to do like the longer thing. You have to
Yeah,
have a
sure.
lot of material. But it's interesting that if you can become a regular, so somebody that comes to my mind is Brian Regan. That's how he
Mhm.
got to start. He just started with open mic. He started doing open mic Thursdays, Fridays. He was going in, and he became so regular. They're like, "Hey, do you want to be our main guy so
Mm.
that we can depend on you?" Like they start scheduling him, and he started making about 150, and then later $200 a night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and then he became so big that, of course, he started getting, like you said, more of a cut.
Oh,
When you
okay.
become big, you start getting a cut.
Okay,
Uh,
I thought you were about to say when you get big, have to get bigger pants, and so I see a bigger cut. I see. I think we're two different things, but whatever. I'm following. I gotcha.
but anyways, in LA, if you move out to LA, so that's just run of the mill, like America, right?
Your box standard
Yeah.
stand up.
But then if you go out to LA, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, anywhere from 1,250 to 2,500 per week, because there's so much demand. There's
Mhm.
so many places out there that really need comedians. They're just constant. Of course, COVID has probably put a damper on that, but a newer comic. This is from Lori Kilmartin. She says a newer comic just breaking into the LA circuit can earn anywhere from 1,250 to 2,500 per week. That's as of the Hollywood Reporter. And the basic need of comedians in LA. So if you really want to become, I mean, it kind of goes to common sense. If you really want to become an entertainer,
Yeah.
especially in the comedy, you got to go out to LA or New York.
So it really sounds like if because I went to Austin and they have a lot of open mic nights. So
Yeah.
I went down there and it was interesting. So it sounds like really if you're trying to, the process in which a person would do to get into stand-up would be do the open mics. When you start getting a little bit of like attention or heat and you're refining those jokes to where a lot of people are coming to see you, then you've got enough material to go to LA to where you might be able to make between 1,200 to 2,000 or 8,000 a month, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the stand-up route.
Yeah.
That's not just in comedy. That's just
No,
stand-up.
that's just stand up in like bars and, you know, in shows. She said we had once a month and so she spends about, this is from somebody who's going out and getting talent. She spends about $70 per show on one comic.
Mm-hmm.
And because the reason is it brings in so much income for them, as far as like people that come in to watch comedy buy a lot from the bar. You know,
okay, yeah.
A lot of these bars are like, bring in the comics. It's like, it's going to bring in it just brings in a lot more money for them. Like if you have somebody who goes up there and just plays, you know, like guitar songs, you know, da, 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 you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Those people like, oh, it's nice, you know, ambiance. But for some reason, when you bring in comedy, the audience just naturally, there's something about comedy and buying booze that really goes together.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of get it, you know. You want to get a little lubed up and laugh a little bit more, and so you buy an extra drink or something, and people's focus are completely on it, you know, and they stay there for longer. Whereas if you have somebody who's playing guitar or something like that, they may or may not stay the whole time, right? They just kind of hear, hey, yay, I'm out of here, you know. But if you see a comic, you're like, oh, even if he's terrible, you're like, I kind of want to see this through.
Yeah, like cringe factor.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. There definitely is a path, and so that's why I kind of specifically was trying to put it together as in like the steps. So like if somebody is thinking about it, that's the particulars of what you need to do. I remember, I think I brought it up to you once, Jeff Foxworthy.
Mm-hmm.
He was living in Atlanta. He was working at IBM, and he would do the improv nights, and they asked him to come like so often. And his wife told him, said, look, if you want to do this, you got to do it right. And you got to go to LA. And the first year that he lived in LA, he ended up putting out his CD or his album, and he was like huge, which the likelihood of that happening is probably less likely. I mean, that's a rare story, but that's basically the sped up version of what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. It's not likely, but it's more likely than you'd think. A lot of times people are looking, there's so, of course, obviously with a caveat of COVID, right? COVID has put a damper on this, but before COVID, there was such a hunger for live entertainment. And to your point, you've made this point before, is that with COVID, I think there's going to be after COVID, there's going to be an increased appetite for live, you know, interactive, going someplace, being with people.
Yeah.
So right now it's not a great time to get into the industry, but it's a good time to start practicing the craft of comedy.
And from what I understand, it's not comparable to acting and singing or music, because like those entertainment, because some of that has to do with appearance.
Yeah.
And where a comedy, you know, your appearance has nothing to do with it. You know, and actually sometimes the goofier you look, the more you kind of fit in. So average looking people is just fine. And it's really about the craft. Yeah. It's really about the craft.
So your mom's way off. Your mom is way off.
Yeah, I know. So
we're in the right industry.
Although Muppets might bring it up a notch. You know, I mean, if we have a Kermit cameo, that might bring up our numbers a little. So
okay, remind me of a story. after this. Okay.
All right.
We're gonna story time.
All right. Let me write this down so I know.
Muppets.
Story Muppets. All right. So I kind of focused on comedy in general.
Okay.
So not necessarily stand up, but just general comedy, you know? So, I mean, there's a difference, right?
Mhm.
And because comedy, you could be a comedy writer.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You could write for a TV show. You could be writing for, you know, a comic or a newspaper, or you're writing jokes for a, you know, like a late night show, or, you know, and so with that, there is a lot more room to grow. So you can, so even if you're like have stage fright, you know what I mean, and it's hard for you to perform, you can still make it as a comedian. I mean, that's how Conan O'Brien started. He was a writer for SNL.
Well, see, that's the thing is that I also looked into that and saw how much writers make. And writers make at the very least, they make $50,000 a year, and all the way up to $100,000 a year. Writing for other comics, writing for shows, and there's so many shows coming out. Let's see, they're talking about like how YouTube shows. There's like a huge explosion recently of YouTube shows that need writers, and they can make anywhere from $50,000 to $80,000 a year just writing for YouTube shows. Like, never even heard of this show, but they need writers, and they're willing to put money into it.
I don't know where. I'm trying to think of who the person was. This person was a comedy writer, so they've done some stand up. And so their name really escapes me, and I've seen their face a couple times on TV. And I think it was a podcast I was watching where, and it wasn't the chicken foot. I was cheating on the chicken foot.
Why you gotta be cheating on the chicken foot?
I was watching the pig's foot. I was watching the pig's foot.
Never watched the pig's foot.
So I was watching, and they were saying that a lot of times they'll just give them a script of a show and said, add some jokes. Put in some jokes in there. So they're not writing the whole thing. They're just writing some jokes, being able to sprinkle it in. And so with that kind of mentality, you could be working 3 or 4 different shows.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah. So anyways, this article I found is geared toward people really starting their career out. A guide for college students.
Well, see, that's exactly where my mind went as I started reading about like how much people make. You know, like if you can make this much money doing comedy, what do you need to get into the field? I'm glad you went there, because I was wondering, like, can you get a degree in this?
Well, the first suggestion they make is they say it's never too late, right? So even if you get into another field and you're working, it's never too late to where you can jump in, because comedy is not it's not like we talked about earlier when it comes to acting or music. Sometimes it's about fresh face for those kind of things, you know what I mean? And acting, you know, they still need older people to act, so you can still kind of get in there, but a lot of it is you have to pound the pavement with those other fields, where comedy, you know, if you could get in and you could, it's not hard to get your foot in the door.
Gotcha.
The other suggestion they make is get into extracurricular activities when you're in college, like acting and improv and writing and those kind of things, because that's where you're going to be able to have that outlet to where you can begin to let your creative juices kind of flow.
Well, and if you're in the Chicagoland area, particularly, in Chicago, you have IO, you have Comedy Sports, you have like a ton of different like comedy improv classes that you can take. They offer, you know, it's for pretty cheap.
Yeah.
You can take classes and become part of them, you know?
Yeah, I know Second City, they have improv classes you can take.
Yeah, Second City. Yeah. All of those. IO. What are some of the other ones? Yeah, I mean, you just look up improv classes and there's just a ton of them in Chicago.
And even I think some people have taken improv classes just if you feel like you're very introverted and it's hard for
Yeah.
you to kind of get out of your skin, you know. So that's one way.
Well,
And
can I
go
tell
ahead.
you that when I used to run in counseling, I used to run a group called Laughing with You that was created by a former student, and basically it was based on the premise that when you play a different role, if you have anxiety and you're just playing a role, like you can get outside of yourself and really learn how to bridge certain boundaries, you know, socially, because you're not playing yourself, you're playing a role. If you're a tree, right? You're a funny tree. It's a lot different than if you're Joseph, right?
So you're saying I can finally become that strong, independent woman I've always wanted to become. Hey, that's all right. We'll leave it at strong, independent woman. It's story time. And Judah, you had a story about Muppets.
Okay, so story time. So when I was I think I was 8 years old, my grandparents brought me, my mom, and my brother to Prince Edward Island. Have you ever heard? So we used to live in Canada. You ever heard of Prince Edward Island? That's where Anne of Green Gables took place. You know, Prince Edward Island.
No.
Okay. Well, some people know where it is. It's a small island in Canada. It's famous. Well, we went to this really expensive seafood restaurant on the sea, and they were giving away prizes for like doing things. Like if you went up front and you did something, you get a certain prize. Well, my brother went up with my mom to the front, and he wanted to sing. He was at the time, so I was 8, he was 6. He wanted to sing, like, I think he wanted to sing some little Christian song. And my mom kept laughing, and my brother kept yelling at him, like in the mic. They both had mics, right? And it's like we're trying to win, like something. And my mom just she got tickled, right? And Paul's like, "Mom, Mom, stop it!" He's like, what was it? I think they were singing. I can't remember. Oh, Jesus. Mom, stop laughing. Jesus. Mom! Anyways, and so that was a debacle, and they won they won something. But then they're like, okay, does anybody have any other talents? And I'm like, Mom, I've got a talent. And she's like, really? I was like, yeah. Yeah, thanks, Mom. Yeah, I have some talent. But this was my talent. I went up there and I was like,
what were you doing? Like, were you doing voices or something?
No, I wasn't even doing voices. It's like, this is what you do. This is a crocodile. If you were doing, this is a crocodile. And for that, I won a lobster dinner. Because you can see, like, it's a crocodile. It's like, it's supposed to be like you put a light behind it.
Yeah, like oh, this is a bird.
Yeah. But it was like in full sunlight, so I was like, I got a crocodile dinner for that. My brother won't let me live that down to this day, because he was like, he had a pretty good voice, and he just wanted to go up there, but my mom went up with him, and he's like, Mom, stop laughing, you ruined this for me.
That reminds me of your wedding, and you had a gala, like oh wait, we got some comments here.
Uh-oh.
That poor chicken sounds sick.
Deborah, stop talking about me like that. That's mean.
So it was your wedding.
Yeah.
And it was like an open mic gala thing. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember this.
Oh yeah,
So-
we called it a Kaylee because
Oh, a Kaylee, not a
Yeah.
gala.
in
Okay.
Irish weddings they have a Kaylee. It's like a talent show.
Okay. Yeah. So I was gonna go up there and tell some funny stories, but
I
Dave
remember.
Dave
Tackett.
Dave Tackett stole my idea. He goes up there telling funny stories, and I was like, "Well, I can't do stories," so I was like, I got to do something funny, and because I can't sing or do anything, right? So I said, I said I need 2 volunteers, somebody or a volunteer, and your sister came up. Which sister was it?
That's my oldest sister, Maria. Not older than me, but she's the older one of my 2 younger sisters.
So she came
Maria.
up, and I just told her, I said, "Look, just stand there and just play hard to get, right? And just pretend like you ignore me." And then, and then when I do like a lasso, kind of motion, then you pay attention to me, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, "All right." And then your dad came up too. And he's like, I could play some music. I said, great. He's like, what do you want me to do? I said, anything, just kind of play. And then when you see us run off, then it's the end. You can stop. And he said, all right. So what I went up there and I did was and it'll be interesting to hear your perspective and what Chanda said. So what I did was I did a dance interpretation of how you and Chanda met. And so I was like going like dancing and doing all kinds of like dances and stuff, and just kind of like, and I was being Judah and I was like trying to win Chanda's heart, and your sister's like ignoring me, and then finally, I just did a lasso and pulled her in, and then we ran off. Right. So everybody thought it was funny because I was like, this is a dance interpretation of how Judah met Chanda.
And it is to this day, it is a legend. Like whenever we talk about the Kaylee, it's like, remember when Joseph did that like interpretive dance? That was awesome. Because it wasn't just like you went up there and like, nye, nye, nye. You like put your whole body into it. And you were just like, I've never seen you get so into something like that. It was amazing.
Yeah, well, interpretive dancing is like your whole body, and I was just going like, jumps and all kinds of weird spins and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was and I think I ran up and sat on Chanda's lap or something. I don't remember.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember, but I know I was like running all over the place.
Yeah.
And then when I ran out of ideas of what to do, then I lassoed her.
Yeah, you were owning the stage, and because when you first went up there, I was like, "Oh man, what is he gonna do?" I'm gonna do.
He's gonna say something inappropriate.
Oh, then you're like, "I'm gonna do interpretive dance." I'm like, what?
Yeah, because it was silence. Like we were like, "What does that mean?"
I had no idea what you're gonna do. Yeah, and you just put your whole body into it, and you were just like, and you later went into dance, because I remember when you did that, both Chanda and I thought, we said to each other, man, Joseph's pretty good, like physically pretty graceful. You weren't into any dance at that time.
No. It was later on I started getting into dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you,
first
Dan.
started dancing at Banana Slingers downtown. The Red That's oh, I forgot. So go back in time, and then this was a girl night, and then not for kids.
By the way, thank you, Dan Heiniger, for the heart. Thank you for hearting our video. Love you, man. Thank you for tuning in. We've got Jim Pickett. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for tuning in. We love you guys. And yeah, we hope to keep banging away at getting to the heart of comedy, but also telling funny stories and jokes, right?
Yeah. I think the backbone of what we said we wanted to do was stories. They trumped everything. So,
Yeah.
one last story.